Stugotz here for Hotel Tonight. I love this app. It's not a website, it's just an app, and I absolutely love it. I have used it, and I will tell you a story in just a second here, guys. But if you need to get away and you're looking for a great deal on a hotel, then you need Hotel Tonight. You got to get this app. And again, it is just an app. It is not a website. You can wait until the last minute and still score a crazy good deal at a super cool hotel. They have partnered with some amazing hotels. And I will tell you a quick story here with the Hotel Tonight app. My wife and I decided we wanted to stay down on South Beach in Miami where I work for the night. And the day of, at around 2:30, I went to the app. I asked for options. They gave me some fantastic options. We stayed at one of our favorite hotels for 50% less than we normally pay. It is amazing. So download the app today, and you'll get deals very similar to the ones I got just a couple of weeks ago. Download the Hotel Tonight app. Start booking better deals at better hotels right now. Something better just came along. Hotel Tonight. Stugotz here for Dell. There's nothing small about your business. It takes a lot of hard work, and it makes a huge difference. As a thank you, during Small Business Month, Dell is offering up to 40% off select PCs with 8th Gen Intel Core processors, plus get a free external hard drive with select PC purchases. Simple to get. Call 877-BUY-DELL to speak with a small business technology advisor today. That's 877-BUY-DELL. One more time, check them out today. It's 877-BUY-DELL.
Greg Cote of the Miami Herald in with us today, as he is show-killing every Tuesday. Consistent as clockwork. Greg Cote comes in here, and he wrecks the show.
Hello, all. Wrecking it.
Today, when I come in, he and his son are having a legitimate argument. His son, as is often the case with Greg Cote, is filled with shame as Greg Cote gives his opinions on X, Y, and Z. So when I come in, Greg Cote is again not even remembering that we've done this show complaining about going to a hibachi restaurant and not getting a chef that was culturally specific to hibachi. Again, he was complaining about this, and I walk in, and I'm like, "What? Again, you're going to do this show? You want to do this show again?" And he's like, "But it happened again last night."
It did. It's fresh in my mind. We went to an unnamed Japanese-themed restaurant, probably not the one you're thinking of, that puts on a show. And part of the whole package is the entertainment value. The idea that the chef is going to, flip shrimp into his hat and whatever the hell they do. So our chef was not Asian in the least, let alone Japanese. So I felt like we were robbed of the authentic experience. When you go to a restaurant like that, you're transported to Japan. All of a sudden you're in Kyoto.
I mean, he's not kidding. He's been at this. He has been at this for I don't know how many years. I've heard this complaint. He does. He feels so strongly about this.
The onion volcano just doesn't feel the same to you?
I mean, no, it doesn't actually. You got a guy from the Bronx instead of an Asian man, and it'd be like when you go to Hooters, you have a certain expectation. You don't want a guy with hairy arms as your waiter. You want somebody who you expect when you go to a Hooters restaurant. And I think it's the same with a Japanese-themed restaurant. If I go to an Australian restaurant, my guy better have an Australian accent, that kind of thing. Are there Australian restaurants?
This isn't just reruns on the show. This is reruns in my life. Anytime we go to a hibachi place, this conversation happens.
The Outback.
There you go.
Yeah.
Never encountered an Aussie at the Outback Steakhouse. It's weird.
Shrimp on a barbie. I want that. That's what I'm paying for.
You're paying for an Australian guy?
Yes, I want a kangaroo steak. I want shrimp on the barbie, and I want a guy who sounds like,
Crocodile Dundee.
Crocodile Dundee. Thank you. I was trying to come up with an Australian guy. Who's the Australian guy who passed away prematurely? The animal guy?
Steve Irwin?
Steve Irwin. Wasn't he Australian?
Well, I was going to go with the singer from INXS. That's a fine.
Nice. Self-imposed. How do you feel about this? Like, a lot of people are agreeing with Greg.
It's fine. It's just, it's nonsense edgy. It's not, you go to an American restaurant, I want to be served. Actually, I'm not even sure. Can you say that? I go to an American restaurant, I want to be served by Americans.
I mean,
you can't really say that.
What the hell is an American restaurant?
I go to a hamburger joint, I and then all of a sudden you're keeping immigrants out, you're keeping other nationalities out.
Wait, Greg, your favorite waiter at your favorite Italian restaurant is not Italian.
It's a fact.
What's that guy? That guy. What's his name?
Pablo.
And where's he from?
I believe he's from
he likes Messi.
Spain. I'm not sure.
Right. But he's not cooking your food. He's not the chef.
That's right. He's just
Server.
my waiter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and plus at that Italian restaurant, you're not going for the show. You know, the waiter's not flipping knives and, putting on a show.
Just so that you know what our existence is around here. As I head into that conversation, it just seems silly. The whole thing seems silly, and I've been hearing it from Greg Cote for 10 years. In the middle of that, Billy, this podcast idea.
Whoa, we're going to go to air with this already? I don't know if we're ready for this.
There aren't enough podcasts out there.
Is this fully baked?
I mean, I'm worried that someone might steal this idea for going to it this early before we do an episode.
Yeah, good point.
I heard the Golic and Wingo show stole something this morning.
These guys.
What'd they steal?
I mean, bunch of charlatans, these people. Jeez. So they stole our Magic Crate of content.
What?
But it wasn't a Magic Crate of content. Since it was the NBA lottery, they decided to use ping pong balls. Also, an idea of ours, by the way. We were there first, BT Dubs. Yeah. Don't you remember? Yeah, no, we did. Hang on, let me find the sound effect.
Yep,
it was
we
like
did.
the fake-ass wheel,
yes.
But instead of a wheel, we had the lottery pong shoot.
Yeah.
Same game, new spin. So they did this, and it was nowhere near as good as ours. I mean, ours is a complex production. Yeah. They overdid it, too, and it just didn't work. Sometimes people got candy.
They had candy, though.
What?
Yeah. We don't have candy.
That's too bad, though.
Which it's not very rewarding for anybody outside of the person that wins the candy, but I appreciated some positives coming from it. But the Magic Crate, it's not a punishment. It's a delightful endeavor, and sometimes you really enjoy answering the questions.
They had a 25% chance of getting candy because I guess in the real lottery you have a 25% chance of getting the first pick with the worst record. So that was the twist.
I want to play that game. I mean, candy.
So Guillermo, what was your idea that you're afraid that people will steal?
All right, so here's the premise. You've heard of Cinephile Podcast, obviously, Adnan Verk's movie podcast.
I have not.
Well, obviously. For those who haven't, Adnan Verk has a movie podcast once a week where he talks about movies, and he gives things, maple leaves or whatever, in terms of whether it's a good movie or a bad movie. Now, we've completely neglected, or he's completely neglected, I should say, a whole genre of film. The silent movie. Now
you're talking.
Through negotiations, I have gotten the rights to play clips from a lot of these silent movies. So my silent movie podcast,
some not all,
would be me playing clips from all these silent movies, and then obviously to honor their art, I would be silently reviewing them as well.
I like it.
Excellent. Great idea.
Silent movie podcast.
Would you interview the stars of the time?
Do you want to hear? We have a brief clip if you want to hear from
you've already produced something?
Well, I was toying around with the idea, and this was kind of like a, what's the word I'm looking for? You know how like you have to sell a network? You do like a
upfront?
Your pitch?
Like this is like a pilot episode.
Right.
So here's about 10 seconds of the pilot episode.
That's good, man.
Yep, sold.
That's good.
Nobody else is doing it.
Now you see why I didn't want to do this on air before we had it like.
Well, I don't think
down.
you can fill an hour like that, but like you can give us a good 40 minutes.
I could fill an hour with that, Dan.
I found the lottery balls.
Nice. Yeah. Ours was better. You're right. I heard theirs this morning.
Did I hear the update correctly?
Did I get candy?
Did the update say that Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz are going to fight?
Oh, yeah. I hope so. Yeah, I really like, is this Bellator again? Spike lost the UFC, and they just kept all the fighters that were there when they had the UFC.
What is going on?
And I tune in for it.
Liddell is still hanging around.
Hold on a second.
There was that one fight.
Hold on.
There was that one
Seniors
fight.
tour? I mean,
Hold on.
They did have that one fight between Kimbo and Dada where everybody died.
If that happens, the celebrities there have to be the celebrities that were relevant at the time that they were relevant, right?
Yes.
Like the whole cast of Entourage has to be in the front row of that fight.
Yes. When was Chuck Liddell last relevant? When was that?
All right, hold on.
That's a great.
It is. First of all, I could do the whole show in this space. Let's marvel at this for a second. Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell were punch drunk 7 decades ago. Like, those are two funny names. Cody, what's going on with your stomach? It is making such loud noises.
It's
loud, distracting noises.
Yeah,
They
I
distract
apologize for
your
that.
stomach.
You heard that too?
You were not. You were. How far is he from me? How far is
I
he?
don't know, 2 feet, a foot.
Right. I got dancing swords. I'm going to take care of that during the commercial break.
Does
If you catch
Stugotz
my
not
drift.
know how to measure things?
I mean, you're pretty close.
A foot? You think he's a foot from me?
A yard, perhaps.
Yeah, you think he's a ruler's length from me?
A yard, of course.
Yeah, probably 3 or 4, 3.5 feet.
All right.
It's a
Closer?
gimme, it's a gimme putt for me.
Stugotz doesn't know how to measure things.
Yeah.
The things that we discover around here.
But that bodily sound is uncontrollable, so I apologize in advance if it happens again. I'm only a man.
I mean, it's a yard, Dan. Everyone knows that, 2 feet.
So, Ortiz and Chuck Liddell.
By the way, Brendan Tobin helpfully texted me that this was too hot even for Bellator. They have standards, and they rejected Liddell Tito.
Guillermo, put this on the poll, please. Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, what the hell? Come on, man. Yes or no? Just, what are we doing? What? I love the idea of this sort of Westworld, Mike, where just the Chuck Liddells of the world are roaming looking for a fight. Like just a this dusty outpost. No one can sanction it.
Join me, if you will, to 2007, where Tim Sylvia ruled the MMA kingdom. And Turtle had octagon side seats.
48 years old.
LMFAO couldn't get on the front row because Dana White was running them off.
This was a thing in 2002. I mean, I'm looking at it right now.
And who's challenging Tim Sylvia? That's right, Frank Mir.
Well, I think Frank Mir just lost the other day.
Oh, he's still fighting?
I think he lost to Fedor.
Okay, then he's too hurt to compete, so we got Czech Congo now.
He's still roaming around out there with those giant thighs.
And if he gets hurt, the Dean of Mean, Keith Jardine, is ready to go.
All right. Let's backtrack for a second. Chuck Liddell versus Tito Ortiz. Now, I was watching the other day. There was a brutal knockout on the undercard. I don't know if you guys saw this. First of all, in the women's fight, Amanda Nunes, her opponent's corner failed her. Like, she wanted out of the fight. In the fight, they kept sending her back out there, and it was horrible to watch. And then on the undercard, a dude just got knocked out with the bottom of another dude's foot. But one of the things that was happening repeatedly in the women's fight with Nunes was the woman didn't want to, the opponent didn't want to fight anymore, told her corner she was done, and then she comes back out and she starts taking knees to the face. Knees to the face is not something we allow anywhere in sports. Knees to the face. Chuck Liddell has been doing this. Chuck Liddell, Mike, do you remember? We talked to Chuck Liddell at the height of his powers one time. He was getting a pedicure. At the height of his powers, and he sounded really punch drunk, and that was probably 10 damn years ago.
Yeah, I honestly can't remember a time where Chuck Liddell didn't sound punch drunk.
I will say that Nunes's opponent has since come out and said she's glad they sent her back out for the 5th round, for what that's worth.
Is it Nunes? I think it's Nunes. Not
What did I
Nunez.
say, Nunes?
I don't think it's an Enya.
I made it Nunes, too.
The Iceman. Sitting on that one forever. I think Shaq filmed the first Liddell Ortiz match, everything leading up to it, with a handheld camera.
You just a video recorder or something on his his shoulder.
It recorded directly to tape. And once he pressed record and he stopped pressing record, he just took out a tape and popped it in a VCR, and there you had your footage.
Somebody writes in that Liddell does a terrible, cheesy local lawyer ad here in Albuquerque in which he's punching out some chump in the octagon. That sounds exactly like what Liddell would be doing. Are there any shamrocks at our 2002 main event?
Yes, Frank and Ken have agreed to fight each other. This is the last time, they swear.
Texter writes in here, no one cares about fighting. That's you know how Stugotz does that one? I'm not interested in this, therefore no one is interested in this.
I found a weird sort of lane. The way that I love late 90s baseball, 90s baseball, that's where I'm at with early aughts UFC fighting. It harkens back to a time where I thought that would be the biggest sport in the world. What the hell happened?
Well, I mean, they turned it into a $4 billion sport. $4 billion is no joke. I remember
those guys have to be regretting paying $4 billion for it, though, right?
No,
probably at this point.
You think?
I mean,
peaked. $4 billion. Man.
They bought high. I think they bought high.
Yeah, I mean, man, in like the early 2000s, that was a rocket ship to the moon.
I discovered it. I remember the first time I discovered MMA. It must have been before UFC. I don't even know what the hell it was I was watching. This dude was coming into the octagon, and he was carrying a giant wooden crucifix on his back before fighting. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, is this fake? Is this real? And then they started fighting, and I'm like, oh no, this is real. Because it's literally the way I discovered it was with some dude carrying a giant heavy crucifix, like big wooden crucifix to the ring. And I'm like, oh, they're trying to summon the gladiator spirit. This is dirty and foul and feels like a little back alley cockfighting type of thing. What the hell is this? It can't be sanctioned. Boom. Give me $4 billion for it. Wait, what? I don't know how old I was.
I found the guy, Kimo Leopoldo.
Thank you, Mike. Give me all the information that you can from
He fought Royce Gracie once, so although Gracie is still fighting.
What? All the Gracies are still fighting.
Royce.
Right? Mike Green's right now. All of them are fighting now.
Yeah.
This minute.
Yeah, he's actually up on the judges' scorecard.
There's always a Gracie fighting somewhere.
Oh, that's like a Beatles song.
Yeah.
Yes. Guillermo, put on the poll. Is there always a Gracie fighting somewhere?
And they're usually fighting a shamrock.
Hi, everyone. Stugotz here. Support for the Dan Le Batard Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz, STUGOTZ. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
Dan Le Batard.
561, eat it!
Stugotz.
Eat it, 561.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on the ticket.
Guys, Dan just showed me a whole new world with this Kimo Leopoldo. And now I've gone down the rabbit hole, and I found this dude who used to enter the octagon with a cross on his shoulder. I found a fight of him versus Bam Bam Bigelow. Wow. So I finished watching that, and let me tell you something. Bam Bam took a dive, clearly. This was back in the days where he could hold onto the cage to lift himself up. No interest in lifting himself up. However, Bam Bam, back in those days, getting up, easier said than done. But now I'm on to Akibono, the famous sumo wrestler, versus Royce Gracie. Japan is nuts.
There is some great mixed martial arts in Japan. Look up Bob Sapp. Do you remember Bob Sapp? Oh, look at Roy remembers Bob Sapp. It was this dude. Just do an image search on Bob Sapp, Stugotz. Just, Cody, you do an image search too on Bob Sapp.
I'm sapping it right now.
Are you kidding me?
Happy you mentioned that because I'm watching him fight Bobby Lashley right now.
Yep. Wow, look at that guy.
And guess who destroys Bob Sapp? Bobby Lashley.
No, everyone destroys Bob Sapp. He was just the giant guy. The Japanese loved him, but he was always losing.
Bob Sapp was a creation of really smart booking in Japan because they would always put him against tomato cans to the point where Bob Sapp became the most legendary feared figure in all of mixed martial arts. He was a huge superstar. The WWE was negotiating $1 million deals with him that they couldn't get done because he was such a star over in Japan. And then he got to the point where he actually had to start fighting real people, and he got his can handed to him. And Bobby Lashley, Stugotz, you remember that one time that we sat awkwardly next to Bobby Lashley at a radio station event? I think it was a Dolphins watch party.
Where were we, though? Where do you remember?
Oh, my God. It was a place that used to be D. Wade's.
Yes.
It used to be D. Wade's, but then it became something else.
Right. It was D. Wade's for like a week, right?
Whatever happened to D. Wade's?
D. Wade. Oh, dude, there were so many lawsuits over D. Wade's.
It was D. Wade's for like a week, and I don't think D. Wade knew he had a restaurant. That was part of the problem.
Yeah. It was like...
Didn't sign off on it?
Yeah,
Yes, but I do remember sitting next to Lashley, and it was at that place, and we were like crammed into
in a booth, and you and Dan were on opposite sides, and Bobby Lashley, former WWE ECW champion, was just sandwiched in between you guys, awkwardly silent for several hours with no escape hatch. Man, radio promotions. What was that after D. Wade's? D. Wade's, that lawsuit was one of the legendary South Florida sports lawsuits.
Yeah, it was
all sorts of crazy allegations thrown around in those lawsuits.
We had Michael Irvin out there at D. Wade's for some reason. He was out there and he was signing autographs, and I just remember him telling me, "Hey, I want my own restaurant."
We did so many events.
Playmaker
and Irvin's.
Oh, we did so many events at that place. The post. Dude, what was the post D. Wade's place? We would do midweek Miami Heat first season. This is how crazy the Miami Heat were, that we could do a midweek event. And I think we went to a Blazers Miami Heat watch party at this place.
Yeah.
What the hell was this place called?
I don't know.
Is it still around?
I'm going to find out. Guillermo, what are you laughing at?
How long were you working on starting a restaurant called Playmaker after that conversation with
I got to
him?
tell you, in the moment, I was definitely entertained.
You thought it was a great idea.
Oh, yeah, Playmakers. Yeah, Michael Irvin, somewhere down in Miami by UM. I thought it was, yes, I was in. Yes, Guillermo. To answer your question, I spent days doing nothing but talking to Michael Irvin about it. I didn't put together any numbers or anything, but yes, it sounded like a good idea at the time because Dwayne Wade's was packed. It was packed.
Not for long, apparently.
Well, until Wade realized that he had a restaurant.
And just found Dave Bautista's MMA debut. They put him in there with a guy who was 2 games under 500 as a fighter. This guy looks like a chef in an Italian restaurant, and he is taking it to Dave Bautista right now. Man, I just want to see famous people fighting. That's all.
By the way, Bob Sapp's career record is 23-38-1. And he has a music CD out called Sapp Time. I would like to hear that.
He was in The Longest Yard, apparently, Bob Sapp.
Bob Sapp was just on the precipice of becoming a huge star in the United States. He was the biggest thing in Japan. He was the most famous person for quite a while over there in that country.
22, 35, and 1.
Yeah, but if you look at how like the 22, like he had a run there. He had a run where he seemed unstoppable because of smart creative booking.
He was in The Longest Yard with Adam Sandler.
Yeah, Billy just said that.
Uh-oh. That's a fine.
That's a fine, yeah.
Yeah, Greg also mentioned, after that, Greg mentioned the CD called Sapp Time.
Here's what happened with that. So Chris told me like 5 minutes ago he was in The Longest Yard, and I keep telling him, Chris, bring it up. And he seemed very hesitant to bring it up, so I'm like, you know what? I'll just throw it out there. He was in The Longest Yard. And then a couple seconds later, Chris decided he wanted to bring it up.
Also played in the NFL 2 years.
There's just something about this era, like 2007, where 790 The Ticket finally got their foothold in the market, and it was a bit established, and the show was established, and we were doing like these UFC watch parties, and Stugotz just totally oblivious working a room. But back then, it was just such an event, a UFC fight. You could just sort of half pay attention to it. And that's why it was like one of the biggest sports in the world to me back then. Because every UFC card was such an event because they had a star that you would recognize. And I know I sound like I'm ignorant and I'm not really paying attention, but these names just don't pop the same way. They just don't. There's a reason why CM Punk is fighting on the main card despite losing his first fight in about 30 seconds.
You mentioned liking watching celebrities fight. We should put together a sports media fighting card. Like, I'd like to see Greg Cote and Dave Hyde go at it.
Whoa!
Who wins that one?
Hyde. Does Hyde have the reach on you?
I don't think so. He is taller than me.
Okay, so he's got the reach.
But I got old man strength.
Who are you fighting, Stugotz?
Thinking like maybe Simmons or Wilbon or.
You're aiming high.
I'm aiming high.
Okay, we were thinking a little bit lower.
I was thinking like Will Manso.
Yeah. Ooh, Manso would work you over.
Well, that's
you would just be taking bows in the side of the octagon.
I'm thinking about guys that I could take. That's what I was doing there. All right, I know I can't take Will Manso. Like Will Manso, no, he's going to destroy me.
You can't fight Defoe. He's not going to be medically cleared.
You think you're taking Wilbon? You think you're beating Wilbon?
I can take.
Oh, he can take Wilbon.
I can take Wilbon.
He can take Wilbon.
No, I can take Wilbon.
Wilbon's an older man.
Wipe the floor with him, man.
I mean, Stugotz. Well, I was going to say Stugotz golfs, but so does Wilbon's.
That's true. You guys don't think I'd mop the floor with Wilbon? Are you kidding me?
No.
How about Kornheiser? No?
I think it'd be one of those awkward fights where you guys just sort of hold on to each other and you spin 7 times before someone's legs give out.
I should fight Kornheiser. That's a good matchup.
That is a good matchup. You and Kornheiser, yes. I think maybe Zaslow for me. Would that be?
Ooh.
But I think Zaslow would beat me. I got to be honest.
Ooh, man.
He's crazy.
You need to do Zaza like the day after he does a radio show and like a West Coast Heat game. So like he's nice and tired. That's your speed.
Man, I don't know who wins between Zaz and Stugotz.
I'm telling you, I think Zaslow wins. I mean,
wow, man, you got no confidence.
I got no confidence when it comes. I mean, listen, how old is Zaslow?
Zaslow?
Yeah.
He's 67 years old.
That's a good point. That's a good point. When you do mornings every year is 5 years. You're right.
I am flabbergasted by this fear you have of Zaslow.
I just feel like he's nuts, Zaslow.
What? I don't see him caring enough to be crazy in a ring. What is his secret weapon? Apathy? Why you fear Zaslow?
I don't know, man.
What is it about him?
Weird.
What is it? What move do you fear from Jonathan Zaslow?
I don't.
Complaining about how late it is?
No, just how crazy I think Zaslow is. In a good way. I love Zaslow, okay?
No, but he's not
crazy.
But he's not crazy in the fighter way.
I think he could be crazy in the fighter way.
He's crazy in the neurotic way.
Just distract him, get him talking about Pearl Jam and then sucker punch him.
He's crazy in the I can't figure out what I want for dinner way. Not in the like I'll rip your head off way.
Is that the best strategy to fight Zaslow?
Yeah, I think
Talk
so.
Pearl Jam?
Right.
What would be your strategy? What would be your strategy? Honestly, if you were in a fight, when's the last time you were in a fight?
Oh, man. I mean, college?
And it was like a fist fight. You threw fist over something stupid, probably.
Yeah, I threw fist. Yeah, someone was, I don't know, some guy was going after one of my teammates on the lacrosse team, and then we all felt the need. I didn't want to fight, to be honest.
So it wasn't one-on-one?
It was like a mob.
No, it wasn't one-on-one.
Jump somebody?
Listen, you guys think I'm fighting one-on-one, like an honorable fight? No, I threw a couple of cheap shots and I ran the hell out of there.
I'm picturing you in full uniform in this fight.
I had my helmet on.
Just clubbing somebody with a stick.
Yes. That was a big brawl.
So you've never been on a one-on-one fight?
I don't think I've ever been involved in a one-on-one fight.
Well, that's how you survived this long, I guess. Greg, have you ever been on a one-on-one fight?
Probably not since a playground in middle school, honestly.
I imagine your fight, you extending your fist the way that the Notre Dame logo sort of does.
That's exactly right. The correct stance.
And you actually rolling your sleeves up.
No, I do that.
When's the last time you almost got in a fight? When's the last time someone was really rude to you in a place where the machismo started kicking in and you had the adrenaline rush and you at least had to pretend like you were considering fighting?
Well, I use words as sabers, so I'm not going to resort to fisticuffs. I'm going to eviscerate someone with the spoken word. See, that's my MO. Although when necessary, from Ali, I learned the basics of rope-a-doping. So I can defend myself better than I can go on the offense.
I'd like to hear what it would sound like if Zaslow was threatening me.
You want to fight me? Huh? Stugotz wants to fight me. Let me tell you something. You tough guy? Huh? Look at me. Look at me. Tough guy? Huh? You see this fist right here? Fist sandwich right to your face. Awesome fist. Get you in a ground and pound. All right? I'll tell you something. Me, prize fighter, I'm awesome. Awesome.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like a whole new person.
Disclaimer, you will not become a whole new person. This is impossible. You might be able to join a gym or diet program, buy a new wardrobe, get hair implants, but your DNA and physical form will remain the same. Geico waives any and all liability if you attempt to become a new person, except a cyborg. If you choose to become a half-human, half-cybernetic organism with lasers for eyes, the Geico legal team would be cool with that, because, quote, laser eyes are pretty sweet. Pew, 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 end quote.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Dan Le Batard.
My last name means illegitimate son of the king, Stugotz. Were you aware of that?
Stugotz.
No, you know what my last name means, right?
This is the Dan Le Batard show with the Stugotz on the ticket.
Mike, I don't know. I think I said this at the time, but the Miami Heat's plan B on Hassan Whiteside. Plan B when they were trying to decide, is he a max guy? Do we pay him superstar money even though he's a late developer and it might be hard to trust him? Back when the Heat were undecided on that, the prevailing thought was, well, if Whiteside leaves, we'll just get Al Horford. Al Horford will be available to us. Does that change anything? Because Al Horford, you can make the argument, I think Bomani was making the argument, that the best NBA player on the floor in the Philadelphia-Boston series was Al Horford.
Yeah.
Just in terms of veteran, doing everything correctly in a game, making all of the big plays,
Sure.
and just not raw the way Embiid and Simmons are.
But does that change a single thing in terms of results down here?
I'm asking
Probably
you guys.
not.
I'm asking you guys. What do you think?
I think not.
Because I've one of the many evolutions in the sport I've enjoyed is Al Horford has stepped back. Like Al Horford has always had the mid range, and now he also shoots threes, and he's just he really has evolved his old man game.
It would have made all the difference in the world. And watching that Philadelphia series and then seeing what Horford did in the series afterwards, I obviously have always missed Chris Bosh, but I really miss Chris Bosh when Hassan Whiteside was being a knucklehead out there against Philadelphia, because Bosh would have done well against Embiid. Bosh would have been smart. Bosh would have been all the things that Al Horford was in that series after, but better.
Are you saying would they swap Hassan for Horford right now? And the answer is unequivocally yes.
At the time, if they didn't give Whiteside a max, plan B was Al Horford.
Right. No, I'm playing your beloved what-if game.
Right.
What if Hassan Whiteside had gone to Dallas?
And Horford comes here.
And Horford comes here, which was that was in play. That's not some sort of pipe dream. That was on the table.
Well, that's why D. Wade got so hurt, because the only way that Horford was really on the table was while the team was figuring out what was going on with Kevin Durant. And in that time, Horford signed with Boston and sort of took that option even away from the Miami
but I believe at that time, though, at the time I'm talking about, Horford was still in play playing next to Bosh. At the time we're talking about.
So it's Horford and Bosh.
We're talking about Horford and Bosh.
I mean, listen, to your point, I mean, I didn't realize this, 43% from three this year. I mean, that's incredible.
He's really evolved his game. And look at how few threes. I mean, the year before and the year before he started taking threes, but it's been a pleasure to watch that dude's professionalism since he left Florida.
No, this is his first season over 40%. I mean,
40% is crazy good.
Yes. I got jealous of all the second chance points that Boston had coming off the Heat series, where Philadelphia would get a million second chance, third chance opportunities, and Miami Heat, you had one shot down the court to get it because Philadelphia is such a great rebounding team. It didn't really matter against Al Horford. He was doing all the things that you wanted a smart big man to do. Everything that you were playing a really young team that hadn't been through the fire. Amin was right when he said everything that he said about Philadelphia came true. He just had the wrong team doing it. Boston did all the things that Miami should have done in that series.
And Horford is such the trustworthy veteran who fits Heat culture to a T, and Whiteside's none of those things.
Is Tristan Thompson starting tonight because of the matchup issues that Love has with Horford?
Yeah, that's what Ty Lue said, yeah.
Because Horford now is mismatching them somehow off the court, and Horford is not someone I would have argued would have excited the Heat fan base in any way.
With good reason. I mean, he's not very exciting.
No, but he's a second-tier free agent,
right?
But there's no disputing that he's the kind of piece you want on your team. in almost every way.
No question. I don't know if it was possible outside of a few people for the Heat fan base to get excited about anything after LeBron left. Like, because you had that day where you signed all three of them, and it would be hard for the Heat fan base to get excited over anything short of like Kevin Durant and something like that.
There is a segment of Heat Twitter that sort of delights in some of the low counting stats that Horford puts up from time to time, but that's not Al Horford's game. He can rack up rebounds. In his career, he's been a very good player when it comes to counting stats, but it's just about a stabilizing force that does all the smart things on both ends of the court.
And Whiteside is so polarizing. I don't get a clear sense of how Heat fans feel about Whiteside. Whether the fandom would prefer having Horford over Whiteside. I would, but I think there'd be a lot of fans going, well, Whiteside's a little taller, he's a little younger, and don't give up on him yet.
I really can't gauge the thoughts of the part of the Heat fan base that's not vocal. I'm not sure that there is one that's not vocal. Everyone is pretty much down on Hassan Whiteside now. I don't really. He lost so much of the respect that he built up over the course of several seasons down here with his complaining towards the latter part of the season and ultimately his performance.
Don't we normally make fun of that, though? You have lost all my respect. Isn't that a phrase we always make fun of around here? Like, oh, come on, don't take all of it. Keep 2% and give me the rest. I've lost all respect for this person who made this one mistake in their life.
Yeah.
Hassan's really run the gamut. Just view it through my emotional Heat fan prism. I've been so high on Hassan Whiteside, calling him a generational big when he was playing 10 minutes a night.
Oh, you remember that?
Yeah.
And you were right.
And I was right, and then I was wrong.
And then you were wrong.
And everybody's been right or wrong on Hassan Whiteside. We've run the emotional gamut with him. He's such a peculiar case study when it comes to this organization and that personality type. It clearly just doesn't fit.
And the question is, was Pat Riley wrong on Hassan Whiteside in a big $98 million way? That's the question that the franchise.
You have to factor Bosh in, though. That was part of the plan, right?
Right.
He didn't know that was going to happen to Bosh.
Yeah, man.
Obviously. I remember being excited about it.
Last week over post LeBron. Last week I was saying on this radio show that the Boston Celtics have really worked the Miami Heat in a post LeBron Heat era, but a lot of that is luck. Because the Miami Heat really couldn't figure out what they were because of all the ambiguity surrounding Chris Bosh's situation. And Boston got lucky, too, with Brooklyn being so bad. That really wasn't in the cards. Nobody expected Brooklyn to be that bad when they made that trade.
Well, Whiteside's the kind of guy, if he's playing the minutes, he's going to put up impressive numbers. He's going to be second in the league in rebounds. But you can't have a player making that kind of money who's so easy to reduce to a 10 or 12-minute role. It's
well, I didn't understand how exactly that was happening there. And I thought that had as much to do with distrust. Look, I watched Capella last night bother Steph Curry on the perimeter, steal a ball from him on the dribble. I saw Capella do that. Now, Whiteside's not that, but Whiteside is good enough that you shouldn't have him mismatch you off the court with Ilyasova. That's not something that can happen.
I watched Capella that entire game because I was told throughout the season, and I started leading myself to the point where I could believe that Capella was one of the few centers. I don't want to say bigs because there's Anthony Davis who's a big, but he's not a center in the way that we view centers.
Capella's 6'9", 6'10".
Yeah, Capella is like this sort of he's this sort of new breed of center. That if you're going to have a center out on the court, that's the guy. And what I figured was a lot of people were just paying attention to when he was doing good things, like the steal, like on Curry.
He's a beast.
And there's some times where he just has an open lane and he looks amazing. Sort of like how Mozgov was scoring 2 points every time down the court,
right?
But Golden State was just trading threes. And that was happening last night. Capella got put out of position so many times. If you saw the switches, there was 2 times down the court where these are back-to-back possessions, where Capella had at one point guarded every single Golden State Warrior, and they had clear pass to the lane, and ultimately it ended with a Klay Thompson wide-open three that ended that game.
Yes, you're right. The Warriors, they do that to you because you look up and you're like, wait a minute, I can't use Nene here because he's guarding at the top of the key Kevin Durant.
Right.
They were trying to guard Kevin Durant yesterday with Nene, with Capella a little bit, with Chris Paul. Chris Paul bothered him more than anybody did.
He did, yeah.
But what I'm saying is you notice Capella when he's making big plays and he's looking athletic, and you're like, yeah, that's why he's out there. But you don't notice the boring things where he's tugging on somebody's jersey, hanging on for dear life at the top of the key because Golden State has just switched 4 times on him.
Okay, so it is what they do to you is terrible that way. I thought that the damning thing last night for the Rockets, I did not view the Capella game the way you did, even as Golden State shot 52% because they're amazing. And Klay Thompson wide open, it might feel more terrifying than Steph Curry wide open.
Maybe, but that's the problem for this series. Your third guy is Klay Thompson. The Rockets' third guy is who?
But what do you do with James Harden going for 41? You get very little from Draymond offensively. You don't get much of a game from Steph Curry offensively. You don't get anything from Iguodala offensively. And you lose by double digits at home, and you've got the best offensive rating in the history of the league. And furthermore, aesthetically, you're watching that game, and you're like, man, I like the way Golden State does it better, because Houston had the best offensive rating in the sport. The history of the sport this year. And that's how they played. But we don't like that ISO ball when we get to see the ball move around 4 Hall of Famers. And next thing you know, Klay Thompson's wide open. And you know, he crushed them last night. Every time they came back, they're close. They're 4, they're 7. Something happens on one end, and Klay Thompson's hitting a 3 on the other.
83 combined points for Durant, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry.
But what do you do when Steph Curry and Draymond and Iguodala don't give you very much? You get 41 from Harden, and you're losing by double digits at home.
What a luxury for Golden State that Steph Curry can have for him a very quiet game, 1 for 5 on threes, and yet they still win with ease.
I get nostalgic oftentimes about the Big Three Heat. I think a huge part of their legacy is this monstrosity that Golden State has constructed following that blueprint, ultimately to defeat a team like Miami. With Kevin Durant, they've lost, 3 playoff games?
3 total playoff games.
It's a demigod of a basketball team.
Well, I don't, when you step back from it and you realize the question I'm about to ask you, this is crazy, and I know Stugotz doesn't like Kevin Durant and says Kevin Durant has no titles in his personal record.
Well, he's ruined the league.
Okay, but if you had to play a game tomorrow and I told you, take one Warrior, we're all taking the guy who's not the 2-time MVP. We're all taking – it's unbelievable that the 2-time MVP is not the best player on that team, and he's not.
Yep.
He is not. Steph Curry, if I ask you right now, you got to win tomorrow, who you want, Steph or Durant? You guys are all taking Durant. Why? Because he's always getting his shot. Always. It does not matter who is guarding him. He laughs at everybody.
We were marveling at the LeBron fadeaways that he was taking and making against Toronto. These are ridiculous shots. Kevin Durant takes those shots, but he goes straight up. He doesn't have to fade away. Nobody's closing out on him. The shots that he makes with perfect form, just jumping with the shot being released at its apex, it's not human.
It is so weird in this respect. The athleticism in that league for Kevin Durant to play offensive basketball unbothered.
He's taller than Capella.
He's taller than everybody, but he plays like a guard. And so for him to be able to play unbothered, you could like James Harden's production. It's aesthetically not very pleasing, everything he's doing. But what you can't say is that James Harden gets it easily, makes all of it look easy. How James Harden is always being bothered.
Yes, working hard for it. That might also be a product of Durant playing with 3 other superstars and James Harden only playing with 1.
But I told you that story, though. Yeah. The amazing thing about the whole recruitment of Kevin Durant down here is that the Miami Heat in that meeting explained to him that there was too much ISO in Oklahoma City, that the degree of difficulty basketball that he was playing with Westbrook was impossible, and that if he wanted to have more fun, more open looks, have it be easier, that Miami could make that easier for him. He's like, great idea. I'll do that in Golden State.
Golden State said the same thing, but they have better teammates.
That's right. So Kevin Durant's like, yep, I'll take that plan, and I'm going to take it to the Hamptons, and I'm never talking to you again.
Good idea, Pat. Thank you.
Because the Miami Heat argued to Kevin Durant. They said, you are the best player in the league. The degree of difficulty on how you have to play because of how you had to get your shots. Think about how he had to get his shots. Think about what you're watching now with Kevin Durant, and think about how labored it was at OKC, where it was him or Westbrook, and then next thing you know, they're all trusting Cephalosha or whoever's like him. Right. Please make some threes for us.
So he made it easier on himself.
When you think back to the finals that they made before they were formed basketball players, they destroyed a great San Antonio team in the playoffs, and they somehow got to the finals playing that ISO ball with James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and Kevin Durant. That's insane. And that was just all talent. That was all greatness. And they were, I don't want to say shells because that's way too strong, but they weren't these players. These players are at the top of their game.
I would love to see what that would have looked like if they'd been allowed to play out.
Right. Well, it wasn't. I mean, Harden wanted out, and then Durant, couldn't beat him, so we joined him.
Well, it's not Harden.
Durant would be doing these same things if he stayed with Westbrook. They would have won a title together. They would have won a couple titles together, probably, right? He would have been doing these same things, right?
It's not just Harden being out. The game changed so much that back then we were all saying that Ibaka fits a little bit better because you have duplication with Harden and Westbrook. And nowadays, after we've seen what the Warriors did, give me all three of them. Give me Harden, give me Westbrook, give me Durant. But back then, it wasn't so easy. We were saying Ibaka. That made more sense at the time.
Do you think that Durant eventually would have won with Westbrook? I mean, they were up 3-1 on that team. They had on the Golden State Warriors. They had every opportunity to close that series out. Because I agree with you. That's the frustrating part for me. He is the greatest player in the game. Him and LeBron James.
No, LeBron, by most advanced metrics, is better. And he's certainly a better all-around player. But regardless, Kevin Durant's the closest thing in the league to something that I believe to be the best thing in the history of the league.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine if LeBron were ever the second best player on his team? That's sort of what Golden State has now with Durant.
I think he's imagining that scenario, and that's going to likely dictate where he goes this offseason.
I mean, it is a crazy thing to say, the idea. I mean, put it on the poll, Guillermo, the rare serious sports poll. Who you want for a game tomorrow, Steph Curry or Kevin Durant? Like, that's where we are. There's a 2-time MVP on that team who didn't have to do anything last night for them to win by